And we are back. Progressives are lining up against any change in Social Security, including the way cost of living increases are calculated. The Congressional Progressive Caucus opposes it, as do other progressive groups. Today, Senator Dick Durbin said, we ought to deal with Social Security in a separate conversation. This is not part of deficit reduction. To do it at this stage is the wrong way to go. That counters certainly what we're seeing coming out of the White House. Let's turn to Senator Bernie Sanders tonight from Vermont. Senator, good to have you with us. Does this come out of right field, so to speak? Is this the wrong way to go on Social Security?
Well, it certainly is a wrong way to go on Social Security. As Durbin just pointed out, Social Security has a huge surplus, has nothing to do with deficit reduction. We have ways to make sure that it's solvent for the next 75 years. You do not have to cut benefits for seniors and for disabled veterans. Ed, what's not widely pointed out, and tomorrow I'll be holding a press conference with all of the veterans organizations, the DAV, the American Legion. The chain CPI would make major cuts for people who have lost their arms and legs in Iraq and Afghanistan, widows and orphans. Furthermore, what I would say is, if you saw the poll today in the Washington Post, the people of this country are very clear. Overwhelmingly, they say, do not cut Social Security, do not cut Medicare, do not cut Medicaid. And yes, to the tune of 74% of the people responding to that poll asked people making more than $250,000 a year to pay more in taxes. President has got to listen to the American people and stand firm against the bullies in the Republican House.
Here's House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi today. Listen to this.
Yes, the Democrats will stick with the president, maybe not every single one of them. But on the CPI, since you bring it up, the chain CPI, President, the details of this are not all ironed out, but they all mitigate for helping the poorest, the neediest in our society, whether they're SSI recipients, whether they're 80 and older, or whether they're truly needy in between.
Senator, she says other factors mitigate the impact of the CPI change, and she would have the votes. Any circumstances under which that you could support it?
No, I have a lot of respect for Nancy Pelosi. I think she's dead wrong on this issue. Listen, the AARP, the National Committee to Preserve Medicare, the AFL-CIO, the veterans organizations, the vast majority of the American people are saying you do not balance the budget on the elderly, people who are making $15,000, $16,000 a year, who are struggling to keep themselves alive, should not be taking cuts when we have growing wealth and income inequality in America. Yes, the wealthiest people and the large corporations who are doing phenomenally well are going to have to start paying their fair share of taxes.
President Obama's plan would bring in $1.2 trillion in revenue and extend unemployment benefits, which is pretty important. Are these and other aspects of the president's counteroffer agreeable with you? I mean, certainly the unemployed are going to need some help, and we still have millions of people who are out of work in this country. What about that? There are some good things to this, but is it worth the gamble?
Obviously, we want to do everything we can to protect the unemployed. But what we also have to understand, Ed, and also what's not talked about enough, as a result of, I think, the weak negotiating on the part of the White House in 2010 and 2011, we have already cut $1.5 trillion in programs. And up to this point, the wealthy haven't paid a nickel more in taxes. So I don't think it's a question of, a little here and a little there. People on top doing phenomenally well, middle class disappearing, millions of people living in poverty. I think the president will have the support of the American people if he stands tall, if he stands strong, and demands justice in terms and fairness in terms of how we do deficit reduction.
What about Boehner's plan to pass an extension of the Bush tax cuts for everyone below the $1 million mark? Is that something that you could possibly support? Of course, the president wants to move it to $400,000.
No, that's wrong. It simply does not bring in enough revenue, and it would necessitate even more cuts.
250 is the number for you? You want the Bush tax cuts gone?
Absolutely.
Okay. Senator, good to have you with us tonight. I appreciate your time. There's a lot more coming up in the next half hour of the Ed Show. Stay with us.